Hey.
Okay, I'm recording now.
Okay.
Oh, Jesse, thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to the Soundgirls Living History interview. And let's start off with like a very basic question. How are you doing today? And have you been working recently?
Woo. Well, first of all, it's an honor. It is an absolute honor to be here and to log this. So I appreciate you for including me. I'm doing great today. Today is a good day. We have been working a lot. I've been really crazy busy. Um, and that's a blessing too, considering the whole COVID-19 situation. So once we got back up and running, it's been pretty busy for us at NBCU. So it's good. It's
Interesting. So do you work there full time or do you consider yourself to be like freelance where you still work at other facilities?
I've been at NBC Universal for 11 years now. I call them the mothership.
Nice.
That is the mothership. I am able to go and work at other facilities, and I do. Am also, not only am I an ADR mixer, but I am also a Foley mixer.
Nice.
So from time to time, I will go to another facility to mix their ADR or their Foley, depending on what my schedule is. But my DNA belongs to NBC Universal. But because we are union, technically, we're privately contracted now. So I can pretty much move in whatever space I choose to, but I'm full time at NBC Universal. And when I have a day or two free, I go somewhere else if the offer is there and I choose to go. So
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit about like when you do the ADR mixing and when you do the Foley mixing, and do you have a choice of when you do one or the other, and which one do you like the most?
I do, at this stage in my career, I am pretty much 90% ADR,
Yeah.
because that's what I was hired to do at NBC Universal. Um, I do have a choice in whereas I can choose what session I accept. I'll get a call from a studio or something and say, we're doing X, Y, and Z. And I can say, yes, I can do it, or no, I can't, for whatever the reason may be. Most times it's due to a scheduling conflict. Um, I can't say that I like one more than the other. And the reason for that is they are two different, um, first of all, they're two different mediums and processes. And because there are things about both of them that I like very, very much. I'm very much at home with either or. With the ADR, I really enjoy doing a playback and you can't tell. See, if you can't tell what I've done, then I've done my job. So when I do a playback and I can't tell where that hit, I've done my job. And that's always a real good, warm, fuzzy feeling on the inside. That aside from working with the talent and the directors and the sound supervisors, you get a mixture of things. My brain is all over the place. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of plates in the air when you're doing ADR. Um, and so I enjoy that. I enjoy that very much. I am a people person. I'm kind of shy when I'm not at work, but when I'm at work, the switch clicks on and I'm on and it works. And it's been really, really good. Now with Foley, that's a whole different thing because I get to look at there was a time when I was working at Todd AO, there was a time when I was hired there just to do Foley. I would fill in for ADR, but I would do that. I was a Foley mixer there. And it's interesting how your brain switches and be like, I'd be walking by a trash can or something and I'd see something that I knew would make an awesome sound. So I'm picking stuff out of trash cans. I'm not throwing things away because it makes a good flag sound or this sound or that sound. And I'll give it to the artist and say, look, dude, look what I found, an old telephone, or whatever it would be. And basically with that, it's a select crew. So your day-to-day doesn't change a lot other than the content that you are doing. So I'm always dealing with the same set of people, and you become much more of a cohesive family because you're dealing with each other day in and day out. And it is very, very, I am always amazed at how the artists are able to come up with these sounds. When I finally learned that, they do snow footsteps with cornstarch, and, we use quarter inch tape to do grass sounds and just different things that they would come up with. And I would just sit there and go, wow, they're amazing. And my job in that medium is to make sure that it's translating, because oftentimes what you hear on the stage is not how it's translating through the microphone. And they would say, this is just great. And I'm like, well, it's not translating that way. I get you. It does sound great when I'm in here, but I want you to come in here and listen to how it translates. And so that's where we get together and we figure it out. And, like when you have to make a robot sound, you're literally creating this sound. And it's just, that's my get down, so that's been really, really good. It's all, I am a happy camper on either stage. I am in my element and really at home. And so
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you give like a formal definition of what ADR is and a definition of what Foley is?
Absolutely. Well, formal definition, maybe not, but I can explain to you what it is. ADR is after dialogue replacement. And what happens is we put picture up on the screen, and a sound supervisor, they do a spotting session, and with the editors and the sound supervisors and all of that. And they decide what lines need to be replaced for a whole plethora of reasons. There may have been a car by, there may have be water running in the back, an airplane went over, or they just, didn't particularly wanted a different performance for whatever reason. There's a lot of different reasons that a line needs to be replaced. And more oftentimes than not, it's technical. And then what will happen is we will bring the actors and actresses into my stage, put picture up, mic them up. We try to mic them up as close to what was happening on set that day as possible. And then we replace the line. So we will run picture, and as picture is running, they'll say the line again. And I record it as they're doing it. We just throw Pro Tools in to record, and hopefully it's a group project as well, because we have to get the actor back into the headspace, as well as the vocal space that they are. I have to make sure that the mics are set up correctly, the distance wise, the correct type of mic, as well as, I have my outboard gear that I'm dealing with in order to make sure that my levels are good. So it's like I said, it is a group effort. Everybody has to kind of, it's magic in a bottle at that point. And we replace all the lines that need to be done. Now there's also something called looping or loop group. So what happens with that is which we also do, ADR mixers also do. And what loop group is, but let me also make sure that we got the whole ADR part of it. And that really basically what it is when an actor comes in to replace lines that need to be replaced. So ADR mixers also do loop grouping. And what that is if you look at a scene anywhere, everything in the background, all the people walking across the street, if you're in a park, all the people in the park, if you're in a restaurant, all the people sitting at the tables, we bring a loop group in and we fill that space. So we look at the picture and they say, okay, we're in a Chinese restaurant and there's 5 different couples. We do the couples. We just recreate it, and they come on stage, they start talking as if they were the people at the table, or they start talking as if they were people in the park, and so on and so forth. So that's what loop group is, and that's all encompassed in an ADR session for a show that needs to be ADR'd. Foley, that's a whole nother thing. Foley, just like you see me with my hand movements, I talk with my hands sometimes. If I'm doing this, say I put my hands down on my leg, a Foley artist will actually recreate that. If I put a book down on a table, a Foley artist will recreate that. If I sit down, if I take off a jacket, if I put a set of keys on, on a chair, a table, everything that's an inanimate object that makes noise, that's what a Foley artist will recreate. Slushing through water, walking through snow. Those are the things that they do. All footsteps, all hand pats, cloth movement. So that is Foley, and that's what Foley is so interesting, because if you ever go to a Foley stage, as I know you know, it's just this big room full of all kind of crazy stuff that looks like trash. There's dust and dirt and curtains and just all kinds of crazy, bicycle chains, fences, or just a whole host of stuff on this thing that just looks like junk, but it's not. It's their prized possessions, because that's what they use. They have several pairs of shoes, so when they have to recreate the footsteps, they may need a pair of heels, they may need a pair of Timberland boots, they may need a pair of galoshes to recreate these footsteps, depending on whatever the actor has worn, including surfaces. Might be concrete, might be grass, might be wood, might be brick. All of these things might be diamond metal. Maybe they're going up some stairs on the side of a building, which is all great. So all of those things, all of those sounds have to be recreated. And that's what Foley is. That's what those artists do. And that's what I've been blessed enough to be a part of and record for them.
Awesome. That's so interesting because, and this might be a clarifying question. I told you that I come from like a live theater sound design background. And now since COVID, theater has shifted into being like virtual and people doing like radio plays without the visual element. And now I feel like, yeah, it's been interesting. And now I feel like theater people refer to everything as Foley now. And one thing I've been trying to explain to people that I feel like Foley is, for the most part, sounds created by someone's body. For example, thunder. Would you consider things like thunder and rain a Foley, or is that in film and television? Is that more the territory of the sound effects team and not the Foley team? Okay,
I would consider that a sound design, sound effects side of things. I have yet in my career have yet to have to do, well, I won't say we haven't had to do thunder, that we take these big boards and, we'll make the noise, but that is a sound design thing, because that noise goes on and it's constant. We may provide them a sound that they can then manipulate to, in addition to what they're pulling out of a sound library, and what the sound designer is doing to it themselves. But that to me is a sound design, sound effects side of things. But we will do stuff like that to beef it up.
gotcha.
If that makes sense, just to give them something to play with. It's like, okay, we can push that in there and push that in there. Give us 3 minutes of this, and we'll do the rest. And so yeah, thunder is not a Foley thing.
Awesome,
It's
great,
professional opinion.
awesome. Cool. So let's work backwards a little bit, I guess. Um, your first major gig, was it The Bodyguard or was it something else? And how did you get your first major gig? However you want to define major gig for yourself.
Well, for me, it was all divine. It was divine intervention. I've always known since I was a kid. I've always known that I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I just didn't know. I mean, as a kid, most people, they want to be in, on the stage singing, doing, want to be an actress or something. And initially, I think that I was just a performer. I was out there wilding. That was my personality. And when I got to high school, I started doing newscasting. We had a television program in high school that was on Channel 52 here in Los Angeles. And so I started doing on-air, it was called Student News. And so I did that for, a semester, those extracurricular programs that you can get into. So I did that. And then I went ahead, went to college. My first gig was when I got out. I kind of just meandered around trying to find my way. We're still, I was young and still growing. And I met this man named Jeff Sandler, and he knew what I wanted to do. But the interesting thing about the industry is there are a whole lot of veins and different ways you can go. And what I've learned listening to those of you coming up is that you have no idea what's out there. You really don't know what you want to do. I just want to be in. I like to edit, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'll go and do I picture edit? Do I sound edit? There's just all these different ways you can go. And then there are things that you don't even know that exist. And that's the interesting part about it. And that's part of what I want to let people know, that I exist and that this exists, because most people don't know that what I do exists. So I met this man, and he said this was back when there was, and praise God that I got to go through this phase, when they were using MAG. And he had a whole room full of MAG of different sounds, because he was a sound effects editor. And what he wanted me to do was take all the like sounds and splice them together and make them into 2,000-foot loads. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's a MAG term, because there were 100-foot loads, and then there were 1,000-foot loads or 2,000-foot loads. It's been a while. So, and he just wanted me get all the bird sounds, splice them together. I was splicing them together on a block. This is way back, single stripe. Yeah, single stripe, 3 stripes, 6, it was way back. Okay. And so that's what I went and did. Now this project took me about 6 months to do. That's how much stuff he had. But the blessing was, his room was at a place called Canon Films, that was eventually bought up by MGM. And so it became MGM. But the Canon Films there was a sound transfer room right next to it. And then there was some mixing stages down. So I'm just going in and out on a daily basis, looking and going, oh, snap. Okay, okay. Because I'm young and I'm knowing nothing. I just know to do what I do. So we get to the end of the project, and I'm walking down the hall. And by this time I've met everybody. We all lollygagging and whatnot. And I'm walking down the hall, and this man, another guardian angel, because Jeff Sandler was one of my guardian angels, a man named Mr. Bailey. I was walking by him, and I said, hey, Bailey, I'm going to be out of here in a couple of weeks. You got a job for me? And he says, as a matter of fact, I do. And the man gave me a letter and sent me to the union.
Wow.
And I was in the union. And that doesn't happen. And as I progress through this journey and this career of mine, I know that doesn't happen. So there's never been a doubt in my mind that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. He took me in, gave me a letter, sent me to the union. I came in as I think at the time it was Y16, and put me in the sound transfer room. And from that point, I started doing sound transfer. And the reason that happened is because he needed me to take the sounds that I had put together and transfer them. He's like, I got to have somebody to fill this spot. And that was me. And Corey Bailey will always be near and dear to my heart to this day. There are 3 or 4 of us who came up through him, and I'm still working with one of them. He's working with me at NBCUniversal. He's our main mixer, as a matter of fact, our main dubbing mixer. And a few other guys. Every year we go and celebrate that man, because it's been almost 30 years now. And he brought up quite a few people. He gave people, he created some talent in this industry, and I have a lot of respect for him. That being said, so boom, now I'm in the union. I'm a sound transfer artist. The company goes down, and from there I go to Skywalker. Right, and that's when there was Skywalker West. So it was Lantana. So there's location called Lantana, and Skywalker West was there. It's no longer there anymore, but I went to Skywalker. And then from there, I went to Todd AO. I had a few stops in between, you know, a year here, a year there. But then from there, I went to Todd AO and did some stints, you know, a little bit of work for Technicolor. And so that's how the whole thing progressed. And that's how I got started. The goal for Corey, anyway, Mr. Bailey, he wanted me to be a dubbing mixer. And that's really what he was training me to do. I didn't want to do that. And I don't regret that at all. When I hit ADR, I knew I was home. I knew that's what I wanted to do. Foley was just a happy meeting. You know, that was just that was icing on the cake. But when I hit the ADR chair, I was like, oh, this is the sweet spot. And so that's the story of the beginning for me. And again, it's never lost on me. There's not a moment or a day that I go through those Universal gates that it's lost on me how this has gone. There's never a moment that I'm not extremely grateful. It's, you know, when preparation meets opportunity, and I was prepared, I was ready, and the opportunity came. So that's kind of how that went down.
Oh, I'm such a crybaby. That's so beautiful. I love that.
That's so cool. That
That
is so cool.
with me a lot. Thank you for sharing that. A follow-up question. So you've always you're originally from California. Are you?
Mm-hmm.
So, and
Yes. I was born and raised.
I asked that because
You're freezing up a little.
okay, one sec. Let me try something.
Good. I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Usually turning off the video, turning back on helps. I I asked that because I feel like a lot of sound people I've met who currently live on the West Coast aren't from there. They had a journey to get there. So it's very interesting that you're from California. That's to me very lucky that you're based there. So have you ever wanted to move to the East Coast, or have you always been happy being on the West Coast?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm a Cali girl. I really am in my heart, and I know that because I went to school back east. I went to Brandeis, and so I was back in New England for a while, and you know, traveling up and down the Eastern Seaboard. I love it back there. I absolutely love it. I love DC. I love New York. But it was really clear to me that that was not someplace I wanted to live. Um,
Yeah.
and I missed being home. I was just a crybaby. I wanted to come home, and so I came back home and finished up at CSUN with the radio, TV, and broadcasting major. I will say this: I could move down south. Interestingly enough, I don't know if that's funny for me to say because my mom, you know, my family is from New Orleans and East Texas, so my mother is always just scared to death because she's like, you know, you got too much of this. They're different down in the South, and blah, 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 blah. And I understand exactly what she means. I get it. Um, but I think if I thought about moving anywhere, it might be ATL. I love New Orleans with a passion. It hugs my soul and it hugs my spirit every time I'm there. So I know that, you know, I can tell my people are from New Orleans because it's like I'm home when I'm there, and I've never lived there, and I didn't even start visiting until I was an adult.
Wow.
And so, but it was like I stepped off the plane and I was home. It was the craziest thing. Um, so being in Cali though, I'm a Cali girl. I am. I miss it when I'm away. I love to travel, and I do travel, but I'm always ready to come home and go to my bed, you know, and go to Venice Beach and just, you know, like okay. There was this one little. I remember I was at school at Brandeis, and the sun was down, and I'm a big football fan, so you know, Sunday night football didn't come on till 9 o'clock at night. It was a mess. You know, I was like, what is what? You know, I gotta wait for the football game. What is this? And then what happened was I was outside one day and it was about 6, 7 o'clock and it was dark. And I looked toward the west and I said, all of them mofos is on their way to the beach. I can't stand this. I knew what was happening at home. I knew exactly what it looked like, what the vibe was like. I knew the whole thing. And I was like, all right, now you got to go home. This is not working. This is not working well. So um, I love Cali. Cali loves me back. And so it's all good.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
My next question, do you I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyways. Do you work mostly in film or television? And which medium do you like the most for your job and why?
With it's kind of a mixed bag, but for the most part I am doing television just because that's what's coming through the studio right now. um I will say there are advantages to both. I can get bored quickly, and so which is one of the reasons why ADR works so well for me, because it's always moving.
Mm.
But that being said, we're also doing many of the same shows over and we just go through the seasons. So when we get a new season, it's always fun because it's a new show and you're like, oh, okay, let's see what's happening. But that being said, television has changed a lot and the pace is crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. So you have to be on your game and you have to be on your P's and Q's, because they used to give you 2 days to get something done. They may give you one, maybe, or even 6 hours to get it done. So there's a lot of scheduling going on. There's no room for technical errors. There's no room for mechanical errors. There's just no room for error, which can be stressful, but it all tends to flow. I don't think about that. Faders up, switches on, let's get it. With Foley, that has also happened. The pace has speeded up exponentially.
Mm.
But with doing features, one thing I do like about that is that you get more time.
Mm.
They spend much, much more time and it's because the budget is larger. So they have the money to do that. And that's the one thing, aside from the fact that I like working on cool, the features are cool. I get a chance to work with, usually the director will come in.
Nice.
And that's nice. That's nice. Um, so those are the differences, and how it has changed for what I do. You get more time with features. You get to dig into it a lot more. Pressure wise, yeah, it's a little more pressure when it's a feature. It's a lot more
Really?
pressure when it's a feature. Yeah, it's a lot more pressure when it's a feature. But that would be that would be how I would answer that question for you. Um, if
That's
that
so
makes sense.
interesting. I've heard a few people say that like the timing in television is really fast and it's a lot, but I've never heard anyone say that the pressure of features is so much greater. Can you, if you can, and if you want to, can you elaborate on what causes the pressure in feature film?
Because more oftentimes than not, and this is not to speak to anyone's um, skill set or level in the industry, but again, like I said earlier, I will have producers, directors, they're all there. They're
Wow.
all there for ADR sessions. That's not the case more oftentimes than not. Now, sometimes it is, like for instance, especially since we're doing Zoom with the new technology that we're doing, I am having them show up because it's easier. They don't have to physically come in. But with features, when it was all physically, everybody show up physically, which will return. I'm pretty positive of that. But for television, I'll have oftentimes just the sound supervisor,
Wow.
which and not it's not just a sound supervisor. I don't mean it that way, but I mean only the sound supervisor will come and supervise the sessions. When you're talking about features, that's not the case. You've got all the mucky mucks are coming. most of the time. And, it's higher profile on certain levels, for different reasons. And so if there is I don't believe in crash and burns. That's not an option for me. We don't do that. So, but if there is any kinds of issue, I, any kind, you're going to hear on a feature. You're going to hear, with television, it's like, okay, let's just get through it and go on. You know, not that it's nobody cares. It's that we have a schedule to meet in television, and so let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Feature, you have more time. Again, due to the budget, and like I said, you have the mucky mucks. So that brings that money and the mucky mucks bring a little more pressure to the situation. And for me, I say, bring it. Let's do it.
Awesome. That's so fascinating. Thank you. I feel like my mind just expanded hearing
Uh,
that. um, what's been your favorite television show that you've ever worked on, and why?
You are not going to get me in trouble with that one. That won't be happening. That won't be happening. But I will go way, way back and tell you I had a lot of fun. I had a whole lot of fun doing Thelma and Louise.
Nice.
Uh, and that's a long time ago. We laughed and scratched and had the best time throughout that whole entire production and post-production process. And to this day, when I think about how much I laughed, it's always going to be Thelma and Louise. I won't say it's my favorite because all of them become your babies. In one way, it's like having children. I don't love one. I don't love one more than the other. They're all individuals and they've all been good to me and I've been good to them. So there have been some that have left me crying. There have been some that have made me laugh a lot. So, but I will leave it with Thelma and Louise, and that's way, way back. That's way back, but that was a good time to be had by all. I get off on laughing and having a good time. Life's too short for everybody to be sitting up in a room together, sweating and pissed off. It's like, dude, do you not realize? Take a look around. Look what you got going here. Everybody lighten up. It's gonna be okay.
Exactly.
And that was a good time to be had by all.
Awesome. I love that. And to piggyback off that a little bit, so it seems like you've worked in kind of a range of like genres. What's like the most enjoyable genre for you to work in? And what's one of the harder genres to work in for your specific job?
Um, I am a woman of faith and a woman of God. So it's always difficult for me to work on the dark stuff. I mean, to the point where there's another mixer that I know who's also, and we had to have a chit chat about it. Uh, I said, dude, how do you deal with this? Because I ain't not letting them in. You know what I mean? I'm not letting the demons in. It's like, what did he just do on screen? That is not, no, we will not be inviting the devil up in here. That's not what we're doing today. Okay. And I called him and I was like, dude, how do you deal with this? Because he's very much like myself. And he says, I get it. He says, I had to go to my boss. And he said he had to go to his boss at one point and, express his spiritual feelings about that. So to answer the question, I would say things that are a little dark and a little weird. Those are the things that I have to go. I crawl in on my knees. I'm prayed up when I get in there because it is a job. But the reality of this is people can just say, this is just this. Your tongue, what you say and what you think and what you allow in your spirit, it's important. And no, don't think any different, And so that being said, God's been good to me. I haven't had to work on a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
God's been good to me. I have had a few things that vexed my spirit. I was like, okay, this ain't right. Or I have a bit of a potty mouth. I came up around the boys and we just if I get in my stage and I start cursing, I'll be like, I say some things, and then but I usually will, preface that. I'll walk in saying, okay, guys, if if I start saying some crazy shit, y'all know where this is coming from, okay? Or if you be like, usually I'd be like, okay, Jesus, bless it all, bless it all, bless it all, y'all, if you're offended by my spiritual beliefs, then that's the personal issue, but I'm not gonna not be blessed because y'all got issues. That's not what's getting ready to happen here either. So that's that on that front.
Okay.
My more enjoyable things are of course are comedies. I like to laugh. And spiritual stuff that are life lesson kind of things. I like to laugh. And when I say spiritual, I just mean life lesson, because it's all spiritual to me. But I mean things that are life lessons, and that, oh, I am so sorry, because I could have swore I turned this whole phone off. See there? I could have swore I did. I did. Why is this thing? Okay. Anyway, sorry about that. So that, those have been fun. I did Shots Fired with Gina Blythewood. And I was sitting there in tears half the time. It was very moving, and it was very, it hit my heart. That was very, very rewarding, but very emotional for me. I'm currently working with her husband on a totally different, Reggie Blackwood, on a whole different type of thing. I particularly enjoy working on their shows. But she's an amazing director, and so is Reggie. And that one, even when I think about it, I just get everything. The whole level just goes down, because it was just, it was just tough. It was tough, and I wasn't the only one in tears, so.
Awesome.
You just gotta roll with it, and sometimes that helps your work. You let that emotion flow, and it does help your work, or at least it helped mine. Not that I cared more about this than another, but whatever emotion it evokes, I get to let it out in what I do, and what thoughts come, and how I deal with an actor or an actress, or how I deal with anybody in the room that's there, So that was cool.
Awesome. And see, now I have like two separate questions. I don't know which one to ask first. Um, can you talk about the sequence of how you do scenes? So, for example, on one day of work, do you just start at the beginning of the film or TV show and you work your way through, or do you try to spend a day with just one cast member and knock out all of their needs? Like, what's the sequence of your workflow usually?
It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about, are we talking about ADR or Foley?
Uh, ADR. Let's talk about ADR.
ADR is very different. Well, they're the same in a couple of ways, but what happens is, like I said, there is a spotting session that happens. That's editors, sound supervisors, and they choose what needs to be replaced. Some actors may have 5 lines. Some actors may have 50. It just depends on what has happened in the process, in the shooting process, in the production process. Now, once they have decided what needs to happen, who needs to replace what, that's when the scheduling begins. That's when the sound supervisors say, I need this person, they got 15 lines, this person, they have 20 lines, this person, they have, 5 lines. And that's when we start booking them in. Those lines may be anywhere in the show. It's not necessarily at the beginning or at the end, or just wherever the line happens to fall. So basically what we go by is how they have scheduled it. So when it gets to me, I know who's coming. I have cue sheets already. That usually starts a day ahead of time. I'll start getting emails saying, here are the cue sheets for X, Y, and Z, the picture version that we're using. And that's basically in the picture version usually will have the audio embedded, or they will send me also, 4 tracks of audio that match picture. I build my session, um, and we just pick them off one by one actor or actress at a time. Whoever comes in first, that's the first ones we'll do. Second, and so it's really the sound supervisor and the post-production coordinator's job to make that schedule work.
Okay.
So my job is to get it done once they get there. Does that make sense?
Yes, that was awesome. And
Yeah.
how often, especially in the past, like let's say past 5 to 10 years, have you trained newer people coming into sound, or do you often not get to work with like emerging sound people?
I can be honest and say not one time. And that's sad. That's sad. Now, let me say this. There have been people who've come in to watch what I do.
Okay.
They give a tour or something, or either I'll invite somebody in and say, come on in and see what I do. Because with all especially recently with all the security, that's really almost darn near impossible, but doable. But even prior to then, security is beefed up 100%, if not more, in the last 5 years.
Mm.
So oftentimes shows don't particularly want people to see, the content beforehand. So there's a lot of hoops that you tend to have to go through. Now, if you're already working on the lot, for instance, right now, we're training recordists. So I had two people I'm training yesterday and the day before. I'm not training them to do what I do, but we're training them to be our recordists because of the new technology that we're having to do loopers from home.
Mm.
So there's a whole clean thing that a clean feed program that we're using, and it requires 2 people. So I have to do my job, and the recorder is over there dealing with clean feed. So that being said, we do have that, but it's very rare that we get the opportunity to train someone up as we used to, just as I got trained up,
Mm.
because I was an ADR recordist before with Charlene Richards, who's now at Fox, and I love her to death. I was an ADR recordist before I was an ADR mixer. That doesn't happen anymore. There are no ADR recordists.
Mm.
There may be a few in town. I think there's 1 or 2, maybe 3. But for the most part, no one has a recordist anymore. That they were taken once the advent of Pro Tools got to be at the level that it is. They just said, okay, you guys don't need a recordist anymore. And so, and there's it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. I get the logic in that. I absolutely understand it. And I'm so used to doing it myself till I probably wouldn't know what to do with a recordist. But on feature films, a recordist, it would be mandatory almost in an ADR setting because there's so many layers to it. That doesn't always happen. They just have decided that that's not something that we need at this point. But we are training up those guys that we're training up right now to be um, the recorders for us have a prime opportunity. And I've told them, I'm like, this position doesn't exist anymore.
Mm.
So the fact that you're in it right now, I would, if this is something you want to do, take advantage of it because you're the step behind me. If I go away, if I'm out for a day, they're probably going to call you to sit in this, you
Mm.
know. So be ready. Opportunity meets, preparation. Be ready.
I love that, and that's such a great segue.
So it's sad.
That's amazing. And that's a good segue into
Go
another
ahead.
question I wanted to ask. Oh, I'm lagging again. Hold on. Sorry, I probably started lagging again. But that was great that you said that. So, what other, because I feel like younger people like to ask seasoned people this a lot. Like, what advice do you have for people trying to come up? Like, can you talk a little bit about that and how you feel people who want to get into post-production sound should position themselves for their first job as well as how to move up when they get their first job?
Well, I've often told it's particularly if you're someone who just really has had um, no experience at all. I've always said, get a job anywhere on the lot. I don't care where in the mail room. I don't care what you're doing. Get on the lot. Get a job somewhere on the lot. Um, that way you can maneuver yourself around to see what's going on. You meet people because this industry is not only about what you know, but it's about who you know.
Mhm.
It is about who you know. It's about relationships. And so get on the lot, maneuver yourself around, go meet the editors, just meander down the hallways and see who's doing what. Um, the hope is that you have some inkling, or the whoever has some inkling as to which, I want to be an editor. Okay, you may not know whether you want to be a sound editor or a picture editor. Fine, you want to be an editor. Go to the sound people. Walk down the hallway, go talk to them. Go to the picture side, walk down the hallway, go talk to them. Because again, a lot of this is going to be relationship. Just like my first gig, that was relationship.
Mhm.
That was me suiting up and showing up every day, not even working with them, but saying hi and doing what I do. It was a relationship, and that's how that job came to came to be. Um, in terms of positioning yourself, once you have an idea of where you're going and what you want to do, again, those relationships are going to be paramount because you want to latch on, make a friend, whatever, and they help. That you watch what they do, you start doing what you do. You practice, practice, practice at home, whatever. Put everything on your little laptop and just sit there and go at it. So that when it's time, you know how to open up, set up, and create a session
Mm.
for whichever direction you're going to go. Because I've seen people who know how to do stuff, but they couldn't create a Pro Tools session. They had never done it from the bottom up. They had never done it where you just click the Pro Tools button and create a session. And it was either always there for them. You know what I mean? It was some template that had been made. You got to start. You got to learn how to bust things out. You got to learn where your inserts are. You got to learn, all of that stuff. You need to know that. And if not, at least what it does. You know, Once you get that, I would say if you're going into sound, I am learning, and interestingly enough, as of late, I am learning that it's the technical guys that are really kind of getting into the mixing and the ADR and the Foley. It's not necessarily the ADR, editor. It's not necessarily that person. I'm watching because there's a lot of technical stuff that you need to know in terms of flow and fixing things. And if something's wrong here, how do I bypass it
Mm.
so that I can get this job done? Okay, let's get out of this outboard gear and get into that. And so I'm watching engineers. This is just what I've seen lately. I'm watching engineers get into these chairs as opposed to the editors, a dialogue editor or something like that, which has been really interesting. So I would say be up on your game on the technical side of things. Um, that's just been my what I've seen because I'm watching it happen before my eyes actually as we speak. And I'm like, okay, and I get why it's happening. I do. I mean, I could put ADR editors and myself, we have some commonalities in that we deal with ADR, and I can edit ADR, but not like an ADR editor can.
Right.
An ADR editor might be able to sit in my chair, but they can't do what I do. They just, it's two different things. And I would be clunky at doing what they do unless I practice, and they would be clunky at doing what I do unless they practice. And we both would need each other's technical information.
Right.
So with ADR mixing, it's more technical information. I'm finding, your mics, your mic placement, what kind of outboard gears what kind of amps are we using? What kind, what do I need to do? Do I need to put a limiter on this? Is it compressed? Is it this? Is it that? There's a whole lot of things going on. Do you have a cold that day? Is my actor's head stuffy? What are we going to do about that? How are we going to do that? Do I throw a verb on this? What am I doing with this? And that's a lot of that is technical. And I'm watching these engineers do this. And it's a personality thing too. So get as much technical knowledge as you can. That would be my suggestion. Get as much technical knowledge as you can, because the proof is going to be in the pudding, whether your personality can handle the job or not. You'll know real quick because everybody doesn't have the personality to do this. Just like everybody doesn't have a personality to be a dubbing mixer. There's some things that require a certain personality.
I love that.
Yeah. So
awesome.
I don't know if that helped or not, but
that was great. Thank you. Cool. We can go to some like closing out questions. I'm curious, had you not gone into ADR or Foley, what else in post-production would you choose to do? And it could be a different post-production sound thing, like it being like the re-recording mixer, or it could be something completely different, like visual effects or something like that. Like what else, like 20 years ago, would you think you would have liked doing the rest of your life?
I would have been a technical director, because that's almost the way I went. I was this far from, but I just got snatched. Just before I was getting ready to take off that way, somebody said, "Oh no, this is the way you're supposed to go." But I really dig the live, for lack of a better term, because it's live, but sometimes it's not live. But I really dug the technical directing portion of it. I remember I did it for a project that I had to do. And at that point, I didn't even know what I was like. Oh, this is this is technical directing. I love this. I loved it. And I still do. So I would have been a technical director. That would have been what I would have gone after.
Interesting. That's okay. I wasn't expecting you to say that, but okay. That's great. And
Yeah, I would have done that.
awesome. And considering all the types of genres and stories you've gotten to work on so far, are there any types of genres or formats or anything like that that you would like to work on in the future? Like something new for you that you haven't done yet?
I am blessed to say that I pretty much hit them all.
It's okay, great.
I gotta be honest with you. I think the only thing I haven't done is no, that's okay. Here we go. I have not done any reality TV. I've done no reality TV at all. So okay, I'm in. Let's bring them in. Let's do it. But other than that, I've done animation. I have done long format, short format, hour longs, half hours, sitcom, comedies. I'm trying to think of, did I miss something?
No. it's so
Okay.
it's so interesting you said reality TV, because I feel like there's this stigma around working in reality television that I hear a lot of like video people, sound people, colorists, like people in post production say they hate reality television. I would love to work in reality TV, so I'm glad you said that. So
That's a good attitude to have, because it's all work, babe, and it's all an art. And I don't care what anyone says, because I have some colleagues who throw their little noses up as well. And I just kind of go, well, I get it. It's ratchet. I get that part. If we're talking about the ratchet stuff, I get it. Who wants to deal with that on a regular basis? But it's like, dude, they threw a camera on and there's sound to it. Let's get it. What's the problem? And so that's kind of where I'm at with that in terms of it's reality TV. Look, it's fine.
Exactly.
I'm good with it. So
Awesome. And last question, what are like some of your hobbies when you're not working, and like what do you do to keep yourself happy outside of work?
I'm as of I would say the last 10 years plus. Well, it's been a while. I'd like to travel. That soothes my soul. I'm a huge concert goer. Huge concert goer. So I'm into music a lot. I've done some skydiving. That's always fun. Um, and I'm pretty much a homebody. Like I said, I turn on when I'm at work, but when I'm home, I'm good being at home. I like being with me. I like me. I'm good. So I'm good just being here. If I like festivals. And There's a festival that happens once a year here. I think also in either I think it's in Atlanta. I'm not quite sure, and it may be some up in New York called Soulnik. So I always try to go to Soulnik because it's just really cool.
Awesome.
So I'm a good festival. I like food. I'm a foodie. I like to go do food. Um, I just chill. It's like can we all just get along? And I just sit up and try to be happy. Um, I really do. And by try to be happy, I mean I just stay chill and do what I do and stay out of the drama. There's enough of that. Not that my work is drama, but I'm saying that's a whole nother you walk into a lot of stuff when you go to work. So when I come home, my, it was interesting. I remember before I had a home and I was renting apartments, I would tell them what I do, and they thought, uh-oh, we're about to have all this noise. You're a sound person and I'm going to have speakers there was just going to be all this noise. And I would be like, dude, it is the exact opposite. I'm like, there's nothing going. I don't even have a surround sound system. Okay. I got nothing going. Okay. It's quiet. And so, yeah, I walk, I try to get a little exercise in, I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling.
I love that.
I'm a sneakerhead. I'm a big sneakerhead. So, I buy sneakers. That's
That's
my
so
thing.
cute. You collect sneakers. I love that. That's great.
I am a huge sneaker. Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this conversation. Let me stop the recording.